1. We're taking a look at a 1976 Chevrolet Chevelle, specifically the Laguna model, which is a bit of a rare find. The seller is asking $8,000 for this piece of American muscle car history. Now, I want to be upfront and honest with you. The seller's description doesn't provide a lot of details about the car's overall condition. They mention that the car is being sold as is, exactly how they bought it, and that they've only put gas in it to keep it running. This suggests that the car may need some work or restoration, but the extent of what it needs is unclear. What we do know is that this Chevelle has a relatively low mileage of just 45,000 miles, which is a plus for a car of this age. It's equipped with an automatic transmission, making it easier to drive for those who prefer not to shift gears manually. The exterior is finished in a classic red color, while the interior is a timeless black. It's important to keep in mind that when buying a classic car like this, especially one that may need some work, it's crucial to do your due diligence. If you're seriously interested, I recommend going to see the car in person, taking it for a test drive, and having a mechanic inspect it to get a better idea of its overall condition and any potential issues that may need addressing. Despite the lack of detailed information about the car's condition, there's no denying the appeal of a 1976 Chevrolet Chevelle Laguna. These cars have a strong following among classic car enthusiasts, and the fact that this particular model is somewhat rare only adds to its allure. In conclusion, if you're in the market for a classic American muscle car and have $8,000 to spend, this 1976 Chevelle Laguna might be worth checking out. Just be sure to approach the purchase with a realistic understanding of what you're getting into, and be prepared to potentially invest some time and money into getting the car into top shape. 2. We're taking a closer look at a 1984 Pontiac Bonneville, or more specifically, a Pontiac Parisienne, which the seller mentions in their description. The asking price for this vintage ride is $4,200. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This Pontiac has seen its fair share of the road, with 145,000 miles on the odometer. While that might seem like a lot, it's not uncommon for cars from this era to rack up the miles, especially if they've been well maintained. The seller mentions that the car is mostly stock, which is a big plus for those who appreciate originality. They also note that it hasn't been hacked up, meaning it hasn't undergone any major modifications or questionable customizations. In terms of recent maintenance, the seller states that within the last 10,000 miles, the car has received a new water pump, hoses, radiator, and heater core. They've also replaced the valve cover gaskets. This suggests that the seller has been proactive in addressing some of the car's mechanical needs. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The seller does mention that the engine smokes a bit and burns a little oil. While this isn't ideal, it's not necessarily a deal breaker for a car of this age. However, it's definitely something to keep in mind and to have checked out by a mechanic before making a purchase. On the plus side, the seller says the car fires right up and sounds great, thanks in part to a new Flowmaster exhaust system. They also mention that you could jump in and drive this baby across the US, which speaks to their confidence in the car's overall roadworthiness. The interior has been upgraded with a touchscreen radio and a custom sound system featuring JBL 12s in the trunk, 2 amps, and Rockford Fosgate components throughout the cabin. While not everyone may appreciate these modifications, they could be a selling point for those who enjoy a more modern audio setup in their classic ride. Aesthetically, the car sports a purple exterior and a brown interior, which is definitely a bold color combo. The seller mentions that the factory badges were removed when the car was painted, but that they still have them and haven't gotten around to putting them back on. Overall, this 1984 Pontiac Parisienne seems like a solid choice for someone looking for a mostly original, road-ready classic with a few modern upgrades. As with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence, get a thorough inspection, and be prepared for the potential need for ongoing maintenance and repairs. 3. We're diving into the details of a 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, which the seller has listed for $4,500. Right off the bat, It's important to note that this Monte Carlo is a project car. The seller is upfront about this, stating that they don't have the time to work on it anymore. So if you're looking for a turnkey, ready-to-roll classic, this might not be the car for you. However, if you're up for a bit of a challenge and have the skills and resources to take on a project, keep reading. Under the hood, you'll find a small block Chevy 350 engine, which is a popular choice for these cars. It's paired with a 350 turbo transmission, which should provide smooth shifting. The seller also mentions that a 373 Posey traction differential from a Grand National comes with the car, which could be a nice upgrade for the right buyer. The suspension has been upgraded with a BMR Stage 2 Pro Touring setup, which includes a 2-inch drop. This should give the car a more aggressive stance and improved handling characteristics. Inside, the interior has been redone using components from a Grand Prix. The seller also mentions a double-din head unit, though it's not currently installed. The trunk features a custom setup with 3 subwoofers and 3 amplifiers, 2 Memphis amps for the subs, and 1 amp for the highs. This suggests that the car has the potential for a pretty impressive audio system. Now, let's talk about the areas that need attention. The seller is upfront about the fact that the car needs bodywork. They specifically mention that the fender needs work or replacement, and that there's a little rust in the rear quarter panel. They also state that the rest of the car needs bodywork, and that it's about 60% sanded. This is important to keep in mind, as bodywork can be time-consuming and expensive. Another thing to note is that the AC and heat have been deleted, and a blocker plate has been installed. This might not be a big deal for some, but it's worth considering if you plan to drive the car in extreme temperatures. The seller also mentions that some hardware for the fenders has been lost, which is another detail to keep in mind. Finally, they state that the car will need to be hauled away on a trailer, as it's not currently in a drivable state. Overall, this 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo seems like a solid project car for someone with the right skills and resources. It has some nice upgrades, like the suspension and audio system, but it also needs a fair amount of work, particularly in the bodywork department. As always, it's important to do your due diligence, thoroughly inspect the car, and have a realistic understanding of the time and money it may take to get it into the condition you want. 4. We're taking a look at a 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, which the seller has listed for $4,500. One of the first things that caught my eye about this Monte Carlo is the incredibly low mileage. According to the seller, this car has only been driven 18,000 miles. For a car that's over 40 years old, that's pretty remarkable. Of course, as with any used car, it's always a good idea to verify the mileage and have the car inspected by a trusted mechanic. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it easy to drive for just about anyone. The exterior is finished in a gold color, while the interior sports a brown color scheme. Gold and brown were popular color choices in the late 1970s, so this Monte Carlo seems to be a true representation of its era. The lack of detailed information about the car's condition makes it difficult to assess its true value and potential needs. It's possible that the car is in excellent shape given its low mileage, but it's also possible that it has been sitting for an extended period and may require some mechanical attention or restoration work. As always, when considering a classic car purchase, it's crucial to do your due diligence. If you're seriously interested in this Monte Carlo, I highly recommend reaching out to the seller and asking for more information and photos. If possible, arrange to see the car in person and have it inspected by a professional. While the low mileage is certainly enticing, it's important to approach this purchase with a realistic understanding of the potential risks and rewards. Classic cars, even those with low mileage, can come with their own set of challenges and expenses. In conclusion, this 1978 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, with just 18,000 miles on the odometer, could be a very interesting find for the right buyer. However, the lack of detailed information about the car's condition means that potential buyers will need to do their homework and proceed with caution. If you're up for a bit of a gamble and have been searching for a low-mileage classic, this Monte Carlo might be worth investigating further. 5. We're diving into the details of a 1965 Ford Thunderbird, which the seller has listed for $6,000. First off, let's talk about the basics. This Thunderbird is equipped with an automatic transmission, making it easy to drive for most people. The exterior is finished in a beautiful blue color, while the interior sports a sleek black color scheme. The car runs on gasoline, which is pretty standard for a vehicle of this era. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: the condition of the car. The seller mentions that the car has rust, but they also state that it's not a rust bucket. This suggests that while there is some rust present, it may not be extensive or structural. However, it's important to keep in mind that rust can be a serious issue in classic cars, and it's always a good idea to have a professional inspect the vehicle to assess the extent of the damage. On the plus side, the seller mentions that they drove the car for 3 hours to get it home. This indicates that the car is in drivable condition and that the engine, transmission, and other major components are likely in working order. The seller also states that the car has a clean title, which is always a good sign. It's worth noting that the seller is open to considering trades, but they're only willing to negotiate in person with cash in hand or a proper trade offer. This is a fairly common practice when selling classic cars, as it helps to ensure that potential buyers are serious and not just kicking tires. When it comes to the overall condition of the car, the seller doesn't provide a lot of detailed information. They don't mention any significant damage or problems, but they also don't go into specifics about the car's mechanical condition, interior, or other potential areas of concern. As always, it's important to do your due diligence and thoroughly inspect the car before making a purchase. In conclusion, this 1965 Ford Thunderbird could be a great project car for someone who's willing to put in some work to address the rust issues and any other potential problems. The fact that the seller was able to drive the car for 3 hours is a good sign, but it's still important to approach the purchase with a realistic understanding of the potential costs and challenges involved in restoring a classic car. If you're in the market for a vintage Thunderbird and have $6,000 to spend, or a suitable trade, this car might be worth checking out. Just be sure to inspect it thoroughly, ask plenty of questions, and be prepared to invest some time and money into getting it into top shape. 6. We're taking a closer look at a 1968 Ford Falcon, which the seller has listed for $8,500. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This Falcon has only been driven 52,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car that's over 50 years old. Low mileage is always a plus when it comes to classic cars, as it often indicates that the vehicle has been well cared for and hasn't been subjected to excessive wear and tear. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it easy to drive for most people. The exterior is finished in a lovely green color, and the interior is also decked out in green, giving the car a nice, cohesive look. Now let's talk about the condition of the car. The seller states that the Falcon is in very good condition, which is certainly a positive sign. However, they do mention that the car has some light hail damage, which is visible in the photos. Hail damage can be a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes it's purely cosmetic and doesn't affect the car's overall integrity, while other times it can be more extensive and requires significant repairs. It's important to take a close look at the photos and assess the extent of the hail damage for yourself. If you're seriously interested in the car, it might be worth having a professional inspect it to get a better sense of the severity of the damage and what it would take to repair it. One thing to keep in mind is that the seller is only accepting cash payments for the car. They mention that this is due to scammers, which is unfortunately a common issue when selling high-value items like classic cars online. The seller also notes that no phone calls, emails, or text messages will be accepted, and that the ad will be removed once the car is sold. If you're interested in seeing the car in person, the seller has provided the address of Collision Express in Marble Falls, Texas, where the car can be viewed during normal business hours from Monday to Friday. Overall, this 1968 Ford Falcon seems like a nice little car with relatively low mileage and a clean, classic look. The hail damage is definitely something to consider, but if it's primarily cosmetic, it might not be a deal breaker for the right buyer. 7. We're taking a look at a 1975 Oldsmobile Cutlass, which the seller has listed for $9,500. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This Cutlass has only been driven 55,000 miles, which is quite low for a car that's nearly 50 years old. Low mileage is always a good sign when it comes to classic cars, as it often indicates that the vehicle has been well maintained and hasn't been subjected to excessive wear and tear. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it easy to drive for most people. The exterior is finished in a beautiful gold color, while the interior sports a sleek black color scheme. This color combination is a classic look that really works well on the Cutlass. Now, let's talk about the condition of the car. The seller states that the vehicle has no significant damage or problems, which is definitely a positive sign. They also mention that the car has a clean title, which means that it hasn't been in any major accidents and doesn't have any outstanding liens or legal issues. Based on the seller's description, it seems like this Cutlass is in very good condition overall. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to have the vehicle inspected by a trusted mechanic to ensure that there aren't any hidden issues or potential problems. One thing to keep in mind is that the seller is firm on their asking price of $9,500 and is not interested in any trades. This suggests that they know what they have and are confident in the value of the car. If you're seriously interested in the Cutlass and have the budget for it, it might be worth reaching out to the seller to see if there's any wiggle room on the price. Overall, this 1975 Oldsmobile Cutlass seems like a really nice classic car with low mileage and a clean bill of health. The gold and black color scheme is a timeless look that really suits the Cutlass, and the fact that the car has no significant damage or problems is definitely a big plus. As always, it's important to do your due diligence when considering a classic car purchase. Take a close look at the photos, ask plenty of questions, and if possible, have the car inspected by a professional. If you're in the market for a vintage Cutlass and have $9,500 to spend, this car might be worth checking out. 8. We're diving into the details of a 1968 Buick GS, which the seller has listed for $14,000. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This Buick has been driven 100,000 miles, which is not uncommon for a car of this age. While it's not exactly low mileage, it's also not astronomically high. So it's important to consider the overall condition of the car rather than just focusing on the number on the odometer. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it easy to drive for most people. The exterior is finished in a charcoal color, while the interior sports a sleek black color scheme. This color combination gives the car a mean, muscular look that really suits the GS. Now, let's talk about the engine. The seller mentions that the original engine has been swapped out for a 454 big block Chevy engine, which is a serious upgrade in terms of power. The car also has a TH400 transmission, which is a heavy-duty transmission that's well suited to handle the extra power of the big block engine. The seller states that the car runs, drives, and stops, which is always a good sign. However, they also mention that the car needs some TLC, which suggests that there are some areas that need attention or repair. It's important to get a sense of what kind of TLC the car needs and factor that into your decision-making process. One thing to keep in mind is that the seller is asking $14,000 for the car, which they say is half the price of what this popular body style typically goes for. While this might be a good deal for a 1968 Buick GS, it's important to do your research and make sure that the price is fair given the condition of the car and any potential repairs or upgrades it may need. The seller also mentions that they're open to trades for other cool shit, so if you have something interesting to offer up, it might be worth reaching out to see if they're interested. Overall, this 1968 Buick GS seems like a solid classic car with a lot of potential. The 454 big block engine and TH400 transmission are definitely appealing upgrades, and the charcoal and black color scheme gives the car a great look. However, it's important to keep in mind that the car may need some work, so it's crucial to get a sense of what kind of TLC it requires and factor that into your decision. As always, it's important to do your due diligence when considering a classic car purchase. Take a close look at the photos, ask plenty of questions, and if possible, have the car inspected by a professional. If you're in the market for a vintage Buick GS and have $14,000 to spend, or a cool trade to offer, this car might be worth checking out. 9. We're taking a closer look at a 1984 Pontiac Firebird, which the seller has listed for $5,500. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This Firebird has been driven 100,000 miles, which is not unusual for a car that's almost 40 years old. While it's not low mileage, it's also not incredibly high, so it's important to focus on the overall condition of the car. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it easy to drive for most people. The exterior is finished in a sleek black color, while the interior is a nice gray color. Black and gray is a classic color combination that really works well on the Firebird. Now, let's talk about the condition of the car. The seller states that the car has no body damage, which is definitely a plus. They also mention that the interior has been redone, including new seats, floor, and roof. This suggests that the car has been well maintained and that the seller has invested some money into keeping it in good shape. Under the hood, the seller mentions that the car has a 383-stroker engine, which is a nice upgrade from the standard engine. The car also has a Posey rear end, which is a performance-oriented differential that helps with traction and handling. The seller states that the car runs well, which is always a good sign. However, as with any used car purchase, it's important to have the vehicle inspected by a trusted mechanic to ensure that there aren't any hidden issues or potential problems. One thing to keep in mind is that the seller is asking $5,500 for the car, but they're also open to trades for a reliable daily driver. This suggests that they're looking to get rid of the Firebird in favor of something more practical for everyday use. If you have a reliable car to trade and are interested in the Firebird, it might be worth reaching out to the seller to see if they're interested. Overall, this 1984 Pontiac Firebird seems like a solid classic car with some nice upgrades and a clean bill of health. The black and gray color scheme is a timeless look that really suits the Firebird, and the fact that the car has no body damage and a redone interior is definitely a big plus. As always, it's important to do your due diligence when considering a classic car purchase. Take a close look at the photos, ask plenty of questions, and if possible, have the car inspected by a professional. If you're in the market for a vintage Firebird and have $5,500 to spend, or a reliable daily driver to trade, this car might be worth checking out. 10. We're taking a closer look at a 1965 Ford Falcon, which the seller has listed for $15,000. First off, let's talk about the basics. This Falcon is equipped with an automatic transmission, making it easy to drive for most people. The exterior is finished in a vibrant red color, while the interior sports a gray color scheme. The car runs on gasoline, which is pretty standard for a vehicle of this era. Now let's dive into the details provided by the seller. They mention that the car has a rebuilt 289 V8 engine, which is a nice upgrade from the standard engine options available in the Falcon at the time. The rear end has also been rebuilt, which suggests that the seller has invested some time and money into ensuring that the car's drivetrain is in good shape. The seller also notes that the car has front disc brakes, which is a nice modern upgrade over the original drum brakes. Front power windows have also been added, which is a convenient feature that wasn't standard on the Falcon back in 1965. In terms of aesthetics, the seller mentions that the car has new paint and chrome, which suggests that it has been recently restored, or at least given a fresh coat of paint. The car also has an electronic ignition system, which is a more reliable and efficient setup compared to the original points-based system. Overall, the seller describes the car as a great car, which suggests that they believe it to be in good condition. However, it's important to keep in mind that the term great can be subjective, so it's always a good idea to inspect the car in person and have it checked out by a mechanic before making a purchase. One thing to note is that the seller mentions the car has had 3+ owners, which is not uncommon for a vehicle of this age. However, it's always a good idea to ask for documentation of the car's ownership history and any maintenance or repair records that may be available. In conclusion, this 1965 Ford Falcon seems like a nicely restored classic car with some desirable upgrades, including a rebuilt 289 V8 engine, front disc brakes, and power windows. The red and gray color scheme is a classic look that really suits the Falcon, and the new paint and chrome suggest that the car has been well maintained. As always, it's important to do your due diligence when considering a classic car purchase. Take a close look at the photos, ask plenty of questions, and if possible, have the car inspected by a professional. If you're in the market for a vintage Falcon and have $15,000 to spend, this car might be worth checking out. 11. We're taking a closer look at a 1969 Chevrolet Nova, which the seller has listed for $13,000. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This Nova has been driven 96,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car that's over 50 years old. However, it's important to keep in mind that the car is currently a non-running project, so the mileage may not be the most important factor to consider. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which makes it easy to drive once it's up and running. The exterior is finished in a beautiful blue color, while the interior sports a sleek black color scheme. The blue and black combination is a classic look that really suits the Nova. Now, let's dive into the details provided by the seller. They mention that the car has a 454 big block engine, which is a serious upgrade from the standard engine options available in the Nova at the time. The car also has new headers, power steering, an aluminum radiator, and four-wheel disc brakes, which are all desirable upgrades. The seller also notes that the car has new wheels and tires, which is a nice touch. However, it's important to keep in mind that the car is currently not running and needs mechanical work and parts installed to get it back on the road. The seller mentions that there are tons of new parts installed, but it's unclear exactly what work still needs to be done. One positive aspect is that the seller states the car has a clean California title in hand, which suggests that there are no outstanding legal or ownership issues with the vehicle. Overall, this 1969 Chevrolet Nova seems like a solid project car for someone who has the mechanical skills and resources to get it up and running. The 454 big block engine and various upgrades are definitely appealing, but it's important to have a clear understanding of what work still needs to be done and how much it may cost to complete the project. As always, it's important to do your due diligence when considering a classic car purchase, especially one that's a non-running project. Take a close look at the photos, ask plenty of questions about the car's history and current condition, and if possible, have the car inspected by a professional mechanic who can assess the scope of the work needed. 12. We're taking a closer look at a 1947 Plymouth DeSoto, which the seller has listed for $8,900 or best offer. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This DeSoto has been driven just 50,000 miles, which is incredibly low for a car that's 78 years old. Low mileage is always a good sign when it comes to classic cars, as it often indicates that the vehicle has been well cared for and hasn't been subjected to excessive wear and tear. The car is equipped with a semi-automatic 4-speed transmission, which the seller refers to as a fluid drive system. This type of transmission was an early form of automatic transmission that still required some manual shifting, but it was considered quite advanced for its time. Under the hood, you'll find an inline 6-cylinder engine, which was a common engine configuration for cars of this era. The seller mentions that the car runs great, which is always a positive sign. Now, let's talk about the overall condition of the car. The seller states that the car is all original and in great condition for being 78 years old. They mention that it looks great and is ready to cruise and take to shows. This suggests that the car has been well maintained and hasn't undergone any major modifications or alterations. The seller also notes that the car has a new battery, fuel tank, brakes, and tires, which are all important components to have in good working order, especially on a classic car. In terms of ownership history, the seller mentions that the car has had just 2 owners, which is relatively low for a vehicle of this age. This could be a good sign, as it suggests that the car has been in the hands of responsible owners who have taken good care of it. The car comes with a clean Florida title, which is always a plus when buying a classic car, as it indicates that there are no outstanding legal or ownership issues. Aesthetically, the car features a green exterior and a brown interior, which is a classic color combination that really suits the style of the 1947 DeSoto. Overall, this 1947 Plymouth DeSoto seems like a very well-preserved and original classic car. The low mileage, great condition, and recent maintenance updates are all positive factors to consider. If you're in the market for a vintage car from the 1940s and appreciate the DeSoto's unique style and history, this car might be worth checking out. 13. We're taking a closer look at a 1977 Chevrolet Nova, which the seller has listed for $13,000. But wait, there's more! The seller is also offering a car trailer for an additional $2,000, and the price for both is negotiable. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This Nova has only been driven 1,000 miles, which is incredibly low. However, it's important to note that this is a drag car setup, so the low mileage may not be indicative of the car's overall condition or usage. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which is a common choice for drag racing applications. The exterior is finished in a sleek gray color, and the interior is also gray, giving the car a cohesive and purposeful look. Now, let's dive into the details provided by the seller. They mention that the car has a 350 small block Chevy engine that's been bored .030 over, which means the engine has been enlarged slightly for increased performance. The car also has a 350 transmission, which is likely built to handle the increased power output. The seller also notes that the car has a chromoly drive shaft, a strange Ford 9-inch rear end, and a strange drag race rear brake kit. These are all high-performance components that are commonly used in drag racing applications. The car also has Lexan front and rear windshields, which are lightweight and shatter-resistant, making them a popular choice for racing. The seller mentions that there are many more modifications and upgrades that have been done to the car, but the list is too long to include in the ad. This suggests that the car has been extensively modified for drag racing and may have a significant amount of time and money invested in it. In terms of overall condition, the seller states that the car is in good condition, which is always a positive sign. However, it's important to keep in mind that drag cars are often subjected to a lot of stress and wear, so a thorough inspection is always recommended. If you're interested in the car and the trailer, the seller is offering both for a negotiable price. The trailer has 2 new wheel hubs with brakes and a working winch, which is a nice bonus. One thing to note is that the seller is not interested in trades at this time, so if you're looking to make a deal, you'll need to come with cash in hand. 14. We're taking a closer look at a 1985 Lincoln Town Car, which the seller has listed for $9,000 or best offer. The seller is also open to trading the car for a camper of equal value. First off, let's talk about the mileage. This town car has been driven 250,000 miles, which is quite a lot. However, it's important to keep in mind that these cars were built to last and were often used as livery vehicles, so high mileage is not uncommon. The seller states that the car has no significant damage or problems, which is a good sign. The car is equipped with an automatic transmission, which is standard for a luxury car like the town car. The exterior is finished in a classic silver color, while the interior is a nice blue color. The silver and blue combination gives the car a sophisticated and elegant look. Now, let's dive into the details provided by the seller. They mention that the car has hydraulics with extended A-arms, which is a popular modification in the lowrider community. This suggests that the car has been customized and may have some unique features. The seller also notes that all 4 tires are new, which is a plus. However, they do mention that both front tires have a slow leak and need to be resealed. This is something to keep in mind and may require some additional work. In terms of ownership history, the seller mentions that the car has had 3 or more owners, which is not uncommon for a vehicle that's almost 40 years old. The car also comes with a clean title, which is always a good thing. If you're interested in the car, but don't have the cash on hand, the seller is open to trading it for a camper of equal value. This could be a good opportunity if you have a camper that you're looking to get rid of and have been in the market for a classic luxury car. Overall, this 1985 Lincoln Town Car seems like a solid car with some unique modifications. The high mileage may be a concern for some buyers, but if the car has been well maintained, it could still have plenty of life left in it. The hydraulics and extended A-arms are definitely a unique feature that sets this car apart from other town cars on the market. 15. Let's talk about this 1983 Buick Park Avenue I found on Facebook Marketplace for $2,500. I've got to be honest with you. This one's definitely a project car that needs some TLC. This brown-on-brown classic has racked up 220,470 miles over its 40-year life, and from the seller's description, there are a few issues we need to address. The exhaust system needs work, and the top, presumably the vinyl roof, needs replacement. These are common issues for cars of this vintage, but they're important to factor into your budget. The good news is that it's described as a nice running project, which suggests the engine is still doing its job. With just 2 previous owners and a clear title, at least you're getting a straightforward ownership history. For $2,500, you're looking at an entry-level classic American luxury car that needs work, but could be a rewarding project. These old Buicks are known for their smooth ride and comfortable interiors, but let's be real. You'll need to invest more money to get it into proper shape. The automatic transmission is a plus, and these old Buick engines are generally reliable when maintained. If you're handy with tools and looking for a project car with potential, this could be worth checking out. Just go in with your eyes open about the work it needs. Remember, sometimes the best stories come from cars that need a little love to get back on the road properly. 16. We're checking out this really interesting 1977 Chevy Malibu Classic that's popped up on Facebook Marketplace for $2,500. Let me tell you, this one caught my attention. First off, this green-on-green beauty has only 59,000 miles on the clock, which is incredibly low for a 46-year-old car. The seller's description is pretty entertaining. Calling it a sofa on wheels is actually a perfect description for these old American cruisers. What's really impressive here is the recent mechanical work. They've installed a new brake booster, master cylinder, alternator, battery, and carburetor. That's a lot of important maintenance items taken care of right there. The 350 engine, a classic Chevy small block, is reported to run well, and the transmission shifts smoothly. Exactly what you want to hear. The seller is honest about the paint. It could use a refresh, but they're pitching the current patina as part of its charm. And here's something cool. They mention it still has that classic 1977 smell. That's actually a big deal for nostalgia lovers. At $10,500, considering the low mileage, recent mechanical work, and the fact it's highway ready, this could be a solid buy for someone wanting a classic cruiser. These Malibus are known for their comfortable ride and simple, reliable mechanics. Plus, with the clean title and no significant issues reported, you're looking at a turnkey classic that you can either preserve as is or gradually restore to showroom condition. The best part? You can enjoy driving it while you decide what direction you want to take with it. That's the kind of classic car ownership that makes sense, one that you can actually use and enjoy right away. 17. We're looking at something pretty special, a 1976 Ford Thunderbird that's popped up on Facebook Marketplace for $9,500, and let me tell you, this one's got some interesting features. The first thing that jumps out is that incredibly low mileage, just 28,780 miles. That's amazingly low for a 47-year-old car, averaging only about 600 miles per year. The blue exterior with white interior combination is a classic 70s luxury car look that really works on these big birds. Now, let's talk about what's under the hood. This T-Bird comes with the massive 460 cubic inch V8. That's Ford's biggest engine from that era, and these motors are known for their smooth power delivery and that classic American V8 rumble. The seller describes it as running and driving very smoothly, which is exactly what you want to hear. What's particularly impressive is that it's described as rust-free. which is pretty rare for a 70s car. Being a turnkey-and-go vehicle means you're not buying someone else's project. This appears to be a well-preserved piece of American luxury car history. At $9,500, considering the ultra-low mileage, rust-free condition, and that big 460 engine, this could be a solid investment. These 7th-generation Thunderbirds represent the peak of 1970s American luxury. They're massive, comfortable, and loaded with character. Plus, they're becoming increasingly collectible. Remember, these cars were built for cruising in style, not for fuel economy. But if you're looking for one of the cleanest 76 Thunderbirds out there, this one seems to check all the right boxes. It's a lot of car for the money, both literally and figuratively. 18. Let's check out this 1967 Plymouth Sport Fury that's listed on Facebook Marketplace for $13,500. This is one of those classic Mopar muscle cars that really catches your attention. The seller's being pretty brief with the description, but there are some important details to highlight. First off, they're claiming 10,000 miles, though we should probably assume this is after a reset or restoration, since these cars are over 55 years old now. It's rocking that classic 60s green exterior, which was a popular color choice back in the day. The big news here is what's under the hood. It's packing a 440 cubic inch engine, which is one of Mopar's most legendary power plants. These engines are absolute torque monsters and were some of the most powerful options available in the 60s. The seller mentions they've installed new AC and new carpet, which are both significant upgrades. Having working air conditioning in a classic car is a huge plus. It makes these old machines much more enjoyable to drive in modern times. At $13,500, considering you're getting a classic Sport Fury with a 440 engine, new AC, and fresh interior work, the price seems reasonable in today's market. These Sport Furies are becoming increasingly desirable, especially with the big block engine option. Just keep in mind that while the seller's description is pretty short, you'll want to inspect everything carefully in person. These old Mopars can hide rust in various places, and you'll want to verify the condition of that 440 engine and the automatic transmission. Overall, if everything checks out, this could be a pretty cool piece of American muscle car history that you can actually drive and enjoy, thanks to that new AC system. These cars have presence, power, and that unmistakable 60s Mopar style. 19. Let's talk about this 1985 Pontiac Fiero that's up for grabs on Facebook Marketplace for $6,500. This is one of those interesting pieces of American automotive history that deserves some attention. First off, let's appreciate that this Fiero comes with a manual transmission. That's definitely the way you want these cars. With 136,121 miles on the clock, it's been driven but not abused, and the seller's story adds up. They've only added about 6,000 miles since 2021, using it as an occasional commuter. What's really impressive here is that it's been garage-kept its entire life, and the seller claims it has no rust. That's huge for a Fiero, as these cars were notorious for rust issues. The black exterior with gray interior is a classic combination that works well on these mid-engine sports cars. The seller seems genuinely attached to the car and has maintained it properly. With all service records and garage invoices available for inspection, that's always a good sign. They're being honest about why they're selling it, which adds credibility to the listing. At $6,500, considering it's a rust-free, well-documented example with a manual transmission, this could be a solid buy. Fieros are gaining interest in the collector market, especially clean examples like this one. They were GM's first and only mass-produced mid-engine car until the C8 Corvette, which makes them historically significant. Remember, these cars aren't speed demons, unless it's the GT model, but they're fun to drive, unique to look at, and represent a bold experiment from Pontiac in the 1980s. If you're looking for something different that's likely to attract attention at car shows while still being usable as a fun weekend car, this Fiero might be worth checking out. 20. Let's check out this 1955 Ford Thunderbird that's on Facebook Marketplace for $14,500. I've got to be straight with you. The seller only says condition excellent and nothing else, which is pretty unusual for such a classic car. For a first-year T-Bird, this price is surprisingly low. These cars typically sell for much more when they're in good shape. The 55 T-Bird is a true American classic, known for its 292 V8 engine and luxurious style that competed with the Corvette. At $14,500, something seems off here. A good condition 55 Thunderbird usually goes for $40,000 or more. With such a brief description and low price, you definitely want to see this car in person, get lots of photos, and have it thoroughly checked out before making any decisions. Remember, when a classic car deal seems too good to be true, it usually is. This could be a hidden gem, but without more information, it's impossible to tell. If you're interested, make sure to do your homework on this one.